Hello and welcome. Well, here we are. The plot is finally going to kick off. I gave this show some praise for not immediately starting the plot and instead giving us some time to get familiar with the world, but now it's time for us to get a real villain. We open with the kids on top of Infinity Mountain. They have apparently realized now that they are on an island with no apparent way off, and some of them are panicking a little bit about this. So now we meet two new characters, Leomon and Ogremon. They're fighting and are apparently enemies of some sort, but before they can really get started, Devimon shows up. And here we have our villain. Devimon basically says knock it off and stop fighting each other because now you both work for me and you're going to help me kill the chosen children. By chosen children, of course, I mean Digidestined because that's what they keep calling them. I'm going to do my best not to call them this though because I think it's a pretty dumb sounding name. Initially, both tell him to fuck off, but Ogremon is quickly turned by the idea and decides to indeed join Devimon's ranks. Leomon, however, indicates he knows who the chosen children are and tries to fight Devimon, but Devimon easily handles him and brainwashes him into being his servant. The only thing I can really say here is that the dialogue and line delivery in these scenes suck. It just seems so obvious and telegraphed, like this show was made for 2-year-olds. The way this scene was written just makes it feel like Leomon may as well be running around going, I am a good guy. Did I mention I am a good guy today? Yes, a very good guy I am. While Ogremon is pretty much the opposite. Obvious heroes and obvious villains are fine, but you don't need to telegraph it like this. Anyway, back with our heroes, Tai is attempting to draw a map of the island. I enjoyed this angle. It shows that Tai is realizing the dangers that this world holds, and he's attempting to do everything he can in order to get an advantage over it. Even though this scene is played for laughs because Tai's map is a piece of shit, it doesn't matter. I still like this scene. We see a tiny little bit of Tai growing up into becoming a real leader. And I appreciate that. Joe starts freaking out about how they're stranded on an island for a few seconds, and then we get the sounds of a commotion followed by Leomon showing up. The other Digimon say they believe Leomon to be a good, kind, and friendly Digimon. Gee, I wonder where this is going. So Leomon attacks, the kids run, and eventually they get trapped by Ogremon from the other side. A little bit of dialogue got left out here where Patamon indicated that Ogremon had always been evil. I kind of feel like that should have been there. It would have established the difference between Leomon and Ogremon. Anyway, everybody evolves and everybody fights. It's the first time in this series where we've seen the chosen children whip out all of their firepower at once. So it's kind of a cool little moment. The last several episodes have been dedicated to the chosen children getting their arsenal together, and now in the beginning of this episode, they pull it all out and let loose. From somewhere far off, Devimon is watching. He gets a good look at the wares and firepower that the chosen children are displaying and notes that they have discovered the secret of teamwork. I would have gone with the secret of digivolving, but close enough, I guess. He notes that these 6 Digimon would be rather hard to deal with all at once, even for him. He also notes that the littlest one, Patamon, has not yet digivolved and is still in his rookie form. So, quite obviously, we're building up to Patamon finally evolving. Is it going to happen in this episode? Maybe the next episode? Well, I hope not. I hope they let it build. So we're really expecting something good when he finally does evolve, and then they deliver that something good. Will they pull this off? We'll see. There's a little bit of conversation among our chosen children about how their Digimon appear to be getting stronger not only through their evolutions, but through their experience fighting. Now, I wish this had been made more clear. We don't know how powerful Leomon and Ogremon are, so we don't really have anything to compare it to. Furthermore, how do the kids know that Leomon and Ogremon are so much more powerful than, say, Shellmon or Kuwagamon? I don't know how they got to this conclusion, even though it's probably true, and I do like the fact that they're discussing this. They're basically talking about what they're capable of, and I like that angle from this show. But to me, you need to find a way to establish the fact that, say, what Greymon just did in this episode was more impressive than what he did in episode 2. But I like the fact that they're talking about it and acknowledging this. Kind of relatable. I come back to that word a lot in these reviews, but that's really one of the strengths of this show. It's relatable. These kids ask similar questions and think similar things to what we, normal human beings, would probably question and think about in the same situation. So the kids decide they should try and get some sleep, but Sora remarks that she doesn't want to sleep on the ground, which is odd because they slept in a cave in the previous episode, and I think they've slept on the ground even before that. I don't get it. Now, I understand if she doesn't want to sleep on the ground, but what I'm saying is, well, suck it up. Of course, all of that was just an excuse so that they would go looking for and find the house. So the kids walk around for a little while until they come to a large and apparently well taken care of house. So Tai, being the rather brash leader that he is, just makes a break for the house. Joe, however, being the somewhat cowardly and worrywart that he is, tells him to be careful and it might be dangerous. Oh wait, no, that's not what happened. Joe runs toward the house and Tai tells him that it might be dangerous. What's up with the role reversal here? Joe has always been the one to say things like, be careful, it might be a trap. Why did they reverse the roles here? I can understand that maybe Tai is becoming more responsible, but why is Joe suddenly being more brazen? Minor point, but it just doesn't make any sense, and this has always kind of bothered me. I mean, finding this conveniently placed house is a lot like finding that conveniently placed refrigerator in the last episode, so why is Joe's reaction the exact opposite from that? I don't get it. Now, for some reason, in the dub, the characters keep talking about this place as if it's a hotel or motel. It's just a house. In this house, Patamon sees a picture of an angel and asks TK what it is. TK doesn't really know, but in the dub, he does try and give a little explanation. This is a bit of obvious foreshadowing, but I thought it was handled pretty well, so I'm not really going to make fun of it or anything. Some of the kids think the place is a little creepy, but eventually they all decide that the best thing they can do is hole up for the night here. The kids find a ton of good food in a dining room and chow down. After this, they go to a hot tub area and relax for a bit. All I'm going to say is that the jacuzzi scene in this episode had 2 more images of naked male butts than it needed. However, for what it's worth, there's a little bit of an attempt at humor here where Gomamon accidentally goes over to the girls' side and hilarity ensues. I actually thought it was a little funny, which is more than I can say for a lot of things in this show, so there you go. Also, when the kids find the food, Joe basically goes, well, I'm just going to go ahead and eat it. This, of course, is in direct contrast to what he did in the previous episode when they found the refrigerator. However, this time it's addressed, or at least partially so. It's insinuated that this is Joe sort of growing from his experience in the previous episode and deciding not to be such a stick in the mud all the time. He decides to just take a chance and not drag everyone else down, like he did in the previous episode. Now, the dub doesn't handle this all that well, and it was much better done in the Japanese version, but still I can give them some credit for actually addressing this change in character. I like character development, I don't like acting out of character. So our characters are enjoying themselves quite a bit and head to bed. Before they get to bed, however, there's a nice little scene where all the kids talk about how homesick they are. They question if they're ever going to be able to get back at all, they wonder what their parents must be thinking, all that kind of stuff. It's a nice little scene. We see Devimon, Ogremon, and Leomon outside planning to kill the kids, and then we get a really weird scene that is going to be hard to even talk about. Basically, Tai and Agumon go to the bathroom. It's insinuated that Agumon is afraid of the dark and thus asks Tai to go with him. And it kind of looks like Agumon is trying to take a dump, but he can't. And then we go to Ogremon, who's in the next stall over, and he's laughing. and then it looks like he takes a dump, and as soon as he's done, he bursts out of the toilet and starts trying to kill them. At least that's what it looks like. In the Japanese version, what happened was Agumon kept farting, it smelled really bad, and Ogremon eventually went fuck it and just burst out of there. Either way, I think this is a pretty goddamn unpleasant scene, and I'd rather do without it. And now, Devimon shows up and introduces himself to the kids. It's alluded to the fact that Devimon is much more powerful than any Digimon they've fought before, although this isn't made quite as obvious in the dub. And now we learn two things. Number one is that the house and everything in it was an illusion created by Devimon, meaning that the Digimon in fact ate nothing, meaning that they still can't fight effectively. We also learn that Devimon is the master of the Black Gears and sends them out to do his bidding, specifically taking control of good Digimon and turning them evil. So Devimon destroys the house and sends all the kids except Tai flying around on their beds. He explains to Tai that he knows they are the chosen children and he must kill them all, for they have been sent here to overthrow his dominion over this island. Devimon then breaks up the island into smaller hunks of land, sends those hunks of land sailing across the ocean, and says that he's going to put the kids on these hunks of islands so that they are separated from each other and thus not as strong. Not Tai, however, he's going to kill Tai now through Leomon, which begs the question, why don't you just kill all of them now? They're powerless as they're ever going to be. Why do you bother separating them if you already have them as helpless as you do right now? I guess Devimon's been taking his evil genius advice from Dr. Evil a little too much. So Leomon is about to kill Tai, and it seems all is lost because Agumon cannot defend him. But then Tai's Digivice activates, glows a white light on Leomon, and the Black Gear is purged from his body. Leomon comes around, sees the Digivice, and realizes that these are indeed the chosen children and he has to protect them. Also during this scene, Tentomon remarks, "Leomon is helping us now. We're going to be fine." Oh, naive little Tentomon. Leomon does successfully manage to send Tai away out of Devimon's reach, but is recaptured and re-enslaved by Devimon. So the kids manage to survive the encounter, of course, but they are separated among the chunks of island that are floating around randomly on the ocean. Furthermore, they just ran into their first villain, who has proven to be quite powerful and menacing. So, that's our episode. Not bad. Some problems here and there, but on the whole, not bad. When it comes to Digimon villains, I always viewed Devimon sort of as the embodiment of pure evil, kind of like Michael Myers from the Halloween film series. As if he was just created from birth to be nothing but evil and just do evil things. He doesn't even really have any goal beyond maybe trying to take over the entire digital world, which is pretty generic and plain. But I'm actually fine with that because, again, he's pretty much just the embodiment of pure evil. And on that level, I think he's an okay villain. Oh, and on a side note, I was very worried that Patamon was going to evolve in this episode and his evolved form was going to beat Devimon. They're building up Patamon's evolved form into something really special. We need more time before that happens. And furthermore, knocking off Devimon 20 minutes after he's first introduced to us would have sucked. So thank you for not taking the easy way out there. Alright, that's the episode. So there you go, and thank you.